Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the February 9th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. You can email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on all the socials, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Substack, Spoutable, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook. Yeah, we hang out there, and you can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito live, local and progressive, the great Patty Vasquez driving you home, Edwin Eisendrath, It's the Democracy Stupid, and of course, all of our other great shows and interviews at heartlandsignal.com, which is where you should hang out for your sharing and caring moments. Last week, we had quite a bit of information, articles, and posts that were there at the site. So make your way over and pick your poison, I should say. Or I should say, in this case, pick your politics, what you want to share with people, what you want to share with folks that you think need a little bit of a few more tools in their arsenal. Make your way there so that you've got that in your pocket. Wow. Today's show is just like, rock star folks. Dr. Annie Andrews, who is running for Senate in South Carolina, a very red and then even a red and gerrymandered state. How about that? But she's running for Senate in South Carolina against Lindsey Graham. We need to send him home or someplace. And then Sarah Jones, our good friend from, excuse me, the daily Politicus with Sarah Jones, will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. And then in the 7:30 hour, Professor Robert Pape will be with us to talk a little bit about political violence, international security, and a few other areas that he's an expert in that space. So looking forward to our guest today on our show, as always. But we'll talk a little bit about a couple things that, that took place. And that was a Super Bowl, of course. The Patriots did not get that big magical new number or additional win. The Seattle Seahawks were able to do their thing and win, and they won pretty handily. Lots of field goals. I didn't watch the game; I was busy. And as a result, I didn't watch the halftime show. But I'll pivot right to that immediately because, hey, this is what my takeaway was on Bad Bunny. It's performance, y'all. It's art, it's music, and I didn't know this. My wife told me this, but and maybe you guys knew this, and I'm just a little bit late to the party, but that's okay. I'll stay late afterward. That Bad Bunny's reason, or part of his reason for having Lady Gaga there with him, was that he learned to speak English from listening to her music. I thought that was pretty cool, or in part that's part of the reason. So why is that relevant in this moment? There's so many people who were, throughout the course of the last week and beyond, just, losing their minds over this man who happens to be of Puerto Rican descent, was performing at the halftime at the Super Bowl. And I just... If people want to walk around and say that this country's not racist, or that we don't have these, then that was all about racism. It just was. It wasn't about anything else. You didn't have to understand the language. You didn't have to understand, every word that was spoken or sung, or certainly get every dance move and all the other memes and themes and part of an artistic performance. You didn't have to. If you really, and this is the hypocrisy of so many people in this country. We talk about how great and wonderful we are and all these things, And then you got people who are losing their damn minds over this gentleman performing at the Super Bowl. It's a damn football game, first and foremost. It ain't American. I mean, people want to make it. It's whatever. The people who played in the game, it matters to them because they got to win a championship for something that's near and dear to their hearts that they've spent their lives working up to. For us, it's entertainment. It should be nothing more than that. And if you didn't like Bad Bunny performing, then, that's your own thing. But don't go after him because of his culture and community. I mean, if we dig deeply enough, we might find that there's some people who performed the Super Bowl that have some brown skin blood in their system. But I don't see anybody whining about that. Or you might see someone who performed at the Super Bowl over the years that has some European ethnicity that you don't particularly like. But I don't see you whining and complaining about that. So it's just really, it shows oftentimes that people that want to pretend like they're all American and patriotic and they love this country. Yeah, you just love being able to be a racist and a sexist. And in that space, with regard to Bad Bunny, and again, I didn't get a chance to see the game. Just one of those things. Didn't get a chance to see the game, so I didn't get a chance to see the halftime performance. What I found interesting is that I did watch the people. I kind of made note of the people leading up to the Super Bowl. Some big names, this is why I made note, that said they weren't going to watch the Super Bowl or they weren't going to watch the halftime performance. But they were some of the first people that on social media were whining and complaining about it, which tells me two things. They're full of you-know-what. That's stuff that cows like to, fertilize with. And secondly, they were. I would say that they were jealous. Their curiosity couldn't. Their curiosity, guys, wouldn't stop them. From watching the game. They just had. They were. I got to see it though. And they were posting on social media about how awful it was. Many of the same people were like, I'm not watching the Super Bowl, and I'm not watching the halftime show, Bad Bunny. If that's the case, then why were you, posting about it, So anyhow, just once again, they're looking for attention. But so much of this garbage behind him was about racism and not about excellence. But let's talk about excellence real quickly, guys. So check this out, progressives.
Michelle Obama grew up on the south side of Chicago in a working-class family in a one-bedroom apartment. She earned her way to Princeton, then to Harvard Law School, not through legacy, not through connections, but through talent and discipline. She wrote her Princeton thesis on how black students experience elite institutions because even then, she was paying attention to systems, not just herself. She became an associate at Sidley Austin, one of the top law firms in the country, and then left the money to work in public service. She served the city of Chicago. She ran major civic programs. She became vice president for community and external affairs at the University of Chicago Hospitals, building partnerships that actually helped people. As First Lady, she launched Let's Move, taking on childhood obesity when nobody else would. She created Joining Forces to support military families. She championed girls' education worldwide, traveling the globe to tell young women their lives mattered. She did all of it while protecting her daughters from the spotlight and refusing to turn the White House into a brand. Then she left. No scandals, no grifting, no selling access, no golden statues. She wrote Becoming, one of the best-selling memoirs in American history because millions of people across race, class, and party recognized something real in her. And that is why Donald Trump reaches for racist imagery. Because Michelle Obama represents everything that he can't counterfeit. Competence without cruelty, power without corruption, dignity without fear. She doesn't need to respond to him. Her life already answered.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't need to respond. That's from Dangerous One's original clip. So much to say. So Black History Month. I've said that I'm going to present something pretty much every day about Black history because it is American history. And I am going to, keep giving you guys some things to share. If you want to like that clip, just send me a text, send me an email to Richard at WCPT820.com, and I'll get it to you. Yeah, Michelle Obama is, just once again another superb woman that happens to be African American, and she done it with such grace and style, and all the rest, and toughness, because knowing how all the trolls and the crazies are out there, and many of them are part of this current administration. But at the end of the day, she is current living Black history. She is a historical one, as the first African American first lady of this country. That in and of itself is historical. So history doesn't always have to be something that's 100 years old or 50 years old or whatever your number is. It can be right now while you're alive, and that's the thing and the beauty of appreciating those that are around us, giving them their flowers, if you will, while they're with us. And Michelle Obama represents everything that this clip speaks to about excellence in the country, but also about Black History Month and the numbers of people who have just done historical things in their very short lifetimes. So I also wanted to play this clip because of the just unbelievable, disgusting way, and I talked a little bit about this last Friday, the unbelievable, disgusting way that pretty much everybody on the right, whether they be a state official, a federal official, somebody in the GOP, they're all finding ways, and I say all, too many of them are finding ways to tap dance around, this incredibly disgusting meme by Donald Trump. And it's just disgusting. It's that simple. The fact that it's posted, who posted it, how it happened, just take responsibility for your idiocy and your racism, rather than trying to pretend like you're not. And then I love how people were posting, even some of his family members and other people who kisses behind. Oh, see how he was hanging out with all the Black folk. That just because. I'd like to position this to a white GOP operative. So just because your husband stopped beating you, does that mean he wasn't once a abuser? Okay. I mean, so don't give me this garbage. They tried every time racism comes up with Donald Trump. Many people on the right that are white trot out Black people that he's had done business with or hung out with in the past every damn time, which tells you in and of itself that he plays the race card to his advantage. We're not stupid. And this is the same dude that wanted 5 young boys to be killed because of the Harlem 5 awful situation. So listen, Donald Trump's actions and the people who have kissed his behind around this meme of posting about a former president and his wonderful first lady is disgusting. And anybody that can't say that without pause is equally disgusting. Full stop. You got a problem with that? Look in the mirror. Let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. The NFL season is back, and I wanted to be here are the teams that support the Democratic Party, but yikes. As in 2024, NFL donations to Republicans skyrocketed 7 times more from the 2020 election. And the biggest Republican donor was the Walton family. Not only do they own Walmart, they own the Denver Broncos. 83% of NFL's donations went to Republicans. So let's talk about that 17% that didn't. The Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Blank, he was the largest NFL donor to the Democratic Party, donating $1.3 million to Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign. And Arthur J. Rooney, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, also donated to Democrat politicians in 2024. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers donated $3.2 million to Democrats in 2024. And the Minnesota Vikings donated $32,000 to Democrats in 2024. MAGA's still mad about the male cheerleaders now?
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Chu's Views.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Let's hit them with a couple of quick Chu's Views news items this morning. Full-time office work is back. Employees are not thrilled about it. From Instagram to Home Depot, employers continue mandating 5-day office returns. But that's the best, at least I should say, popular arrangement for employees, according to CNBC. Only 6% of Gen Zers and 4% of millennials want full-time office work, with the most preferring hybrid schedules, according to Gallup. Despite the preference, workers are choosing to stay in jobs and hunker down. Amid a cooling labor market and ongoing waves of layoffs, that's what's driving this conversation. Experts warn the tension could spark burnout and drive high-performing employees to other opportunities. College grads, less likely to find jobs than trade workers. For the first time in decades, a college degree isn't the clearest path to stable employment. Working a trade is, however. The Washington Post reports that workers like plumbers, electricians, and pipe fitters swapped places with their college-educated counterparts last year, a first since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started tracking the employment gap in the early 1990s. I've been saying for the longest time, we have to put more money and resources into our trade and skills development for our younger folks. Consumer spending tells a tale of two economies. In the past 3 years, spending among wealthy Americans and those with college degrees has increased more quickly than that of their lower income counterparts. The new data, released earlier this week, signals growing inequality and supports the notion of a K-shaped economy and may help explain some of the pessimism plaguing consumers. Notably, the data also shows that in a 3 months ended 2025, inflation was worse for lower income and rural households than it was for higher income Americans. The DOJ is taking a hard look at the Netflix WBD monopoly risk. What is that all about? The Department of Justice decided to look at the possible ramifications of Netflix's proposal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery Studios and its streaming HBO Max. The federal probe into the $72 billion deal includes assessing whether Netflix has participated in anti-competitive behavior. The Wall Street Journal reports citing this in a civil subpoena. It is also looking at whether Paramount's failed bid might stifle competition. In an open letter to the UK creatives, Paramount CEO David Ellison continued to tout his offer and called Netflix vision monopolistic. I told you that they were going to push back on this. And who is the Justice Department going to be more likely to align itself with? Probably the folks at Paramount, and as more specifically, Ellison. And last but not least, the Olympic Village does double duty in Milan. Milan's new athletes' village can accommodate 1,700 Olympians during the Winter Games. But it was designed as well to address a persistent problem that's plaguing the Italian host city. What's that? Insufficient student housing. According to Bloomberg, the complex will grow Milan's student housing capacity by 6%. The plan reflects a global trend as cities, including Munich, Atlanta, Calgary, and Turin, have all repurposed Olympic housing in order to accommodate student residents. And that's a good use of space and property. So good on them. All right, guys, a couple of Chu's Views news items. Thanks for hanging in there with us this morning in that space. Now, as you guys know, those that are listening, our listeners that are in North Carolina and those that are here and throughout the rest of the country, don't miss our Building Bridges Fireside Chat. It's a free event that I'll be co-hosting with North Carolina Democratic Party Chair Anderson Clayton, who will be with us tomorrow. And that's going to be on Sunday, March 1st, just 2 days before the North Carolina State Democratic Party primary. I will be joined by North Carolina State Reps Rodney Pierce and Dante Pittman, also Pastor James Gaillard, who was with us last week, and also a candidate for North Carolina State Senate. It's for an open conversation with the North Carolina voters. The event takes place at the Word Tabernacle Church in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Sunday, March 1st from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. To register, go to heartlandsignal.com and click on my picture. That will take you to my show page where you can find information about the event and a registration link. Or send a text to 773-763-9278 and we'll send you the link. So there you go, as a reminder each day. Now, going back to, what we were saying or what I was saying before we went to break, if a person has to ask themselves if that post by Donald Trump was disgusting and awful, then that's where you've got part of the problem. And I know people will say there's so many other issues that we talk about. Yeah, everything, all of it's it's all important. The Epstein files, absolutely, and those girls, those children that were abused by any and all of the people that are part of it, still extraordinarily important. Tariffs, all the rest, all those things. Nothing's not important. I mean, not less important. But we have to remember that the dude that's in the White House is absolutely disgusting in this behavior. There was no need to even go here other than for what we all know now more and more and more is it is a distraction. So if we're not talking about if we're talking about this post, which is calculated, you can't accidentally create these sort of memes. If you tried to put one together, it takes a little bit of, you got to do it. You got to take the time to do it. So it wasn't an accident or just sort of like somebody rolled out of bed and went, oh, I'll click this button and suddenly this will be populated. And it didn't happen that way. It took some time and they had to think about it. So it's calculated and it ties itself again to distractions from, the Epstein files and distractions from the economy and distractions from our terrible footing on the world stage. That's what it's all about. And it also is racist. It's not kinda, maybe. It's racist. Period, end. Anybody that can't say that, and it's disgusting, you're the problem. Like I said last week, and I've been saying for a long time, I don't need to get upset with Donald Trump. It's the people that are surrounding him and the folks that keep voting for and deflecting and defending this awful behavior by the GOP at large. Period. All of them. That's who you need to be upset with. Some shout outs to our team here. Last week, we had quite a week. We did a lot of things, but one of the big things that we did is we hosted, in partnership with the Plumbers Local Union, we hosted a phenomenal, we'll call it a debate, Senate forum on Friday. That was aired live, and the did a great job. Lieutenant Governor Stratton, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, and Congressman Krishnamurthy all did a great job. They held their own, and they approached it from a slightly different perspective. And I'll use a word that Patty and I were sharing, and it got a little spicy at the beginning, which was good. We asked the tough questions or the questions that we thought were relevant to the moment. And sometimes those are the right questions. You don't have to always, I know people say to me, we ask the questions that we ask because we believe those are the ones that are relevant. But to that end, we're so honored to have them with us and to be on the stage with them. But I also want to give shout outs to some people. Of course, Devin, Mike Mercado, who's here, most definitely Whitney, who's here. And she was a great greeter to get us where we needed to be. Also to all of our engineers that were part of this production, to our team, top down, our Heartland team, as well as our WCPT team, Mark, Matt, their teams, their staffs, Rodney, all the people with Heartland. A special shout out to Andy Miles, who was like wearing 10 different hats. And, halfway through a conversation, he'd go, oh, wait, I got to go. So, Andy Miles gets a big shout out because he was on roller skates on Friday. And again, so many of our team who just get it done. And if I missed anybody, I apologize for that. But I just want to let everybody know that we I appreciate the work that went into making that happen. Steve Lessman, can't forget Steve. And again, like I said, I don't want to forget anybody, but if I do, it's not because I can't. It's not because of anything intentional. It's just that the brain's going, who else? But thanks to everybody for all that you did. And that's what we get done here at WCPT. Our team has been fantastic. And I'm just proud that we were able to put together such an important event as well to the voters here in Illinois. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with someone that is also in the fight right now for a very important congressional U.S. Senate seat in South Carolina. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Chick-fil-A.
Hi, I'm Miles.
And this is Grant.
And the little thing we love about the Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit is
how the fluffy, crispy goodness wakes us up in the morning. The chicken is crispy, the biscuit is soft, it's iconic.
Throw some jelly on it, you can throw some honey on it. It helps me kick off the day.
The hash browns are great. And I really like the shape of them too. Little circles of crispy goodness. Yeah, those early morning chicken biscuits are just great, man.
Mornings are a little bit brighter with the Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit and Simply Orange Juice. Available on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today, a high around 40 degrees. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly cloudy. Temperatures fall early, then slowly rise overnight. By Tuesday, partial sunshine, a high around 44. And Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high around 38. Thursday, cloudy, high 37. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 21.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Choose Views.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us this morning. I had the opportunity last year, shortly after her announcement, to have Dr. Annie Andrews from South Carolina on my show. And I learned a few things, which is always a great thing when you have a guest on. One of the things that I learned is that she is fighting like hell to win this U.S. Senate seat in the state of North Carolina. And it's an honor to have her back with us again this morning. Good morning, Dr. Andrews, and welcome back to Choose Views on WCPT.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I learned so much about, and you've been so gracious in the various interviews that I've watched and different things that you've done this last, 7 or 8 months. And you've really just been consistently saying that, the state deserves better. And you've been consistently talking about that from the standpoint that, no matter how red that South Carolina is, that and how many times Lindsey Graham's been reelected to the U.S. Senate, it's time for a change. And as much as, Democrats have said we need younger voices and younger energy, on our side, in terms of people that are coming into the conversation, you've made it clear that the Republicans need to do the same thing, and Lindsey's one of the first people that needs to go. So, I just appreciate your consistency and how honest and unfiltered you've been. And you've talked about it from an interesting perspective as a doctor. So tell us where you are, how things are going, what you've learned, what you've picked up, what strengthened you to just improve in this process of running for this U.S. Senate seat?
Yeah, since we last talked, things on the campaign have been going incredibly well, and it's a combination of factors. It's what you just said. People are ready for new voices, for new representation. And really, to me, Lindsey Graham is the poster child for everything that's wrong in dysfunctional DC. He's in his 23rd year of representing South Carolina as a U.S. Senator, and it could not be more clear from where I sit that all he cares about is keeping Donald Trump happy. He's not representing South Carolina. And as a result, we've been running an incredibly strong campaign. I have outraised Lindsey Graham the past 2 fundraising quarters. We're about to cross that $5 million raised benchmark. And I just, the average contribution to our campaign is $26. We have 160,000 individual donors. And that just shows the power behind this people-powered movement to unseat DC swamp creature Lindsey Graham. And the context of all of this, of course, is that I am here in South Carolina, where we experience deep racial health inequities. We have 14 counties without an OBGYN. We have a measles outbreak, over nearly 900 cases of measles. And I'm a pediatrician, and I just want to solve these problems. And Lindsey Graham is nowhere to be found when it comes to fixing South Carolina and America's broken healthcare system.
Without a doubt, that couldn't be stated more strongly, but thank God it's coming from the mouth of a pediatrician, someone that understands that if we don't take care of our children, we make sure that our children are properly fed, properly educated, properly medically cared for. I mean, we always hear people talk about, we have to take care of our when I say people, let me be more specific. We always hear the GOP talking about got to take care of our children, we got to protect our children, we have to all these things for our children. That's right. Whether we have children or not, we have to do that. And they're the ones that are doing the things politically on a state level, as well as on a federal level, to go in the absolutely opposite direction. They're so worried about, we can't have our children be groomed and brainwashed with this sort of liberal democratic thinking. But at the same time, they're taking away the thing that actually is even more important, is that their access to healthcare and to education and ways to make them stronger citizens. And you've said, no, not on my watch. As a doctor, I know that that's just scientifically wrong. But as a doctor that's becoming politician, you understand it's also politically wrong for our children.
That's right. You just hit the nail on the head. What I see the GOP do every day is use our kids for their political gain. And what I'm trying to do is use politics for America's children. And we watch as the modern day Republican Party gleefully guts our nation's Medicaid program, which is the largest insurer for children in South Carolina and in this country. We watch as they block attempts to pass an expanded, permanent, fully refundable child tax credit that would lift millions of American children and their families out of poverty. We watch as they try to defund our federal Department of Education. We watch as they consistently pick the gun lobby over America's children and their refusal to pass common sense gun laws while gun violence remains the leading cause of death for children in this country. And we watch as they continue to kowtow to fossil fuel big money instead of addressing climate change, which is the most urgent crisis that future generations of Americans face. So that is why I got off the sidelines, because I was so tired of watching them use our kids in their politics while they stand in the way of every meaningful piece of legislation that our children so desperately need to see passed.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've asked so many people to do, Dr. Andrews, is get off the sidelines. And I say this as respectfully as I can in this conversation, because this is about you. I get criticized for saying, well, Richard, what do we do? What else do we do? We have to stand up and fight. I think it's really that simple. And at every crossing, there's no stone unturned any longer, because we have allowed. And I had, a colleague of yours in terms of the professional aspect that's running for office is Dr. Thomas Fisher here, who's from here in Chicago. He was in studio. He's running for one of the congressional seats, the 7th district. That's going to be the former seat of Danny Davis, Congressman Danny Davis, and a legend in Chicago and U.S. politics. But he said similarly to you that if we don't talk about what's happening to our children, not just with the sort of, the boogeyman of the left, but the real things that are happening that the GOP are taking away, And if we don't all get in that conversation, then we've got a really big problem. Then it's going to only get worse. So there are two doctors on in the last week that have both said the same thing. We must be on to something, or you guys must be on to something in terms of where you stand. You also been very vocal about criticizing Lindsey Graham, and this is about going after him. I'm unapologetically. He needs to go. So I'm not going to be the one that sits back and go, well, it's no. The high road has been taken, and now we have to get. And you've done a great job of this, of navigating the high road and having to get down in the dirt a little bit. But you've been very critical about his self-dealing over taking care of the people in the state. And you've taken criticism, obviously, because of the way that the media is run there in South Carolina. But you've been spot on. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I'm not a natural born politician, but I understand something really clear about politics. And if I want to get elected, the first thing I have to do is make a case that Lindsey Graham needs to be fired. And then I need to make a case that I need to be hired. And, Lindsey Graham, as I've already mentioned, is really the poster child for these career corrupt swamp creature politicians. But Lindsey Graham explicitly has done a few things that have people in South Carolina just really aghast at what he's up to. He is dying on this hill of allowing senators to sue the DOJ for millions of dollars because their phone records were reviewed in relation to conversations they had with the president around the January 6th insurrection. So he actually held up government funding a couple weeks ago just because he was so mad that this provision was removed from this bill. And all of his, across the aisle, Republicans and Democrats said, Lindsey, what are you doing? This is the most self-dealing of self-dealing things. He's also stood on the Senate floor and supported Donald Trump's plan to sue the IRS for $10 billion. $10 billion that would come from America's taxpayers, that would come out of our healthcare system, out of our defense budget, out of our education system. Lindsey Graham is clearly in it just for himself and just for Donald Trump. And I've been saying this frequently on social media. Each state gets 2 senators, and we are wasting a whole Senate seat on Lindsey Graham, who doesn't care at all about South Carolina.
Dr. Andrews, I got to tell you, we're you can't see in the studio, but we're cracking up here when you, and appropriately so, have referenced him as a swamp creature, because that's exactly what it is. And ironically, you're in South Carolina where you do have some actual swamps. So
That's right.
It does play well. But Dr. Andrews, let me ask you this question as it relates to the voters in the state. And ultimately, they're the ones that are going to decide. And when I looked at the numbers, and when I say the numbers, I mean the breakdown and the historicals in South Carolina as it relates to how the state has voted for decades. How are you and what are you doing to crack through that, to get people to see, yeah, it might be partisan when I say this, but he is hurting you because he hasn't delivered for the state for a long time. How are you cracking through those who have voted red Republican for such a long time?
I think the first thing I want people to understand is the math isn't as hard as people think it is. Back in 2020, when Lindsey Graham was last on the ballot, Jamie Harrison, my friend who has endorsed my campaign, ran a great campaign against Lindsey, and he came up short by 10 points. Jamie lost by 10 points, which means I only have to persuade about 5.1% of the electorate to change their mind. So we've seen the results of special elections, whether it's in Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, the Virginia and New Jersey election results. We have seen swings to the left well into this double digits, 20-point swings, 15-point swings, 30-point swings. Any of those makes me a senator, the first ever pediatrician senator, and retires Lindsey Graham. So the math is possible. But to get to your point about the typical partisan voting patterns of folks in South Carolina, that is the biggest uphill battle I face. And what I like to say is, the D behind my name doesn't really stand for Democrat. It stands for doctor. The reason I'm in this race is because of the problems I saw for 20 years working at children's hospitals, understanding that there are policy solutions that can help my patients and their families. And the only way to enact those policy solutions is to get involved in politics and to start winning elections. So I come at this from a pragmatic problem-solving perspective, just like I do every day I walk into the hospital to care for sick and injured children.
314 Action. which is headed by a woman named Shaughnessy Naughton. And you know about her. She's a big proponent of having smarter people, and I use that generically, having smarter people, I might say subject matter experts, specialists running for political office. You, Dr. Fisher here in Chicago, running for the 7th Congressional District, Pastor James Gaillard in North Carolina, running for office, they bring a certain special knowledge to be able to solve problems. And you're in that same category to solve a problem when it comes to pediatric care. But that's a part of the bigger problem of medical care at large for the entire country, which is why your race is so important, because you winning this seat moves the needle for the entire, it moves the needle for the state, obviously, because you're going to deliver. You're going to be pushed to deliver by your own desire. But it moves the needle for the country. So talk a little bit about that why that's important to you, not just for the state of South Carolina, but for the rest of the country in terms of just the raw political numbers.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 100 senators in the entire country. And I think anybody, no matter what corner of this country you are in, understand how Lindsey Graham's votes and behavior are negatively impacting your day-to-day life. And imagine the upgrade it would be to go from Lindsey Graham to me in November 2026. I mean, I've been traveling all across the state, of course, but also all across the country. And people are so desperate for a sign of optimism, a reason to feel hopeful about the future. And I can't think of a more dramatic way for us to move beyond this MAGA era of Republican politics than for me, a pediatrician and mom, to defeat Lindsey Graham, who is Donald Trump's lapdog and best friend in Washington, D.C. That would send such an incredibly strong message across this country. It would be a political earthquake. And I am here to tell you that it is every growing day, it's more and more possible that we're going to do that. Like I said, I already outraised him. We are building a people-powered movement down here. Lindsey Graham's approval rating in South Carolina is 28%. He is beatable if I have the resources to beat him. But you're right, our problems are huge. And I'm going to start by addressing America's broken healthcare system, along with my friend, Dr. Thomas Fisher, who's running an incredible campaign. And I look forward to moving towards a patient-centered healthcare system. Right now, America has a profit-motivated healthcare system, and I have seen the negative consequences of that every day of my 20-year career as a hospital-based pediatrician. And I am so eager to bring my lived experience in America's healthcare system to addressing these problems and actually passing laws that actually improve Americans' lives.
Without a doubt. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I am Richard Chu, and I'm talking with Dr. Annie Andrews, who's running for Senate, U.S. Senate in South Carolina against the swamp creature, by her language, Lindsey Graham, which we're totally digging here. The folks in the studio are laughing at that. Every time you throw a grenade, a political grenade at him and describe him, you're pinning it on his ears. And that's one of the things that, that you're doing, and certainly Jamie Harrison did. And moving that needle for the voters is important, because if you can get, if you got to that percentage to shift, like you said, it's going to affect the entire country. And that's why I've tried really hard, Dr. Andrews, to tie here. Our show is based here in Chicago, but we've got our tentacles because of social media and streaming all over the country. So my goal is to make sure that someone in any state in the nation can get involved indirectly in helping you win, because it's going to impact their lives. That's the thing that's so critically important about our national politics. A person could be in Montana, or they could be in Mississippi, or they could be in South Carolina. Your race matters to them now because of the way in which our national elected officials have, particularly on the right, have really mucked things up. So kudos again to you. Let me ask you this question. You get there, and I said this to Dr. Fisher. You got to hit the ground running. I mean, you don't have the time to learn the job, because, I mean, as a senator of the U.S. senator, you've got a little more time than a House member does. But you really don't have time. I mean, you're not. How are you going to hit the ground running so that we can make change and we can push for change right out of the gate?
I mean, I think that's such an important question. We're going to have so much rebuilding to do, figuratively and literally. America, the Trump administration is really attacking all aspects of what we felt comfortable calling American democracy. My legislative priorities are going to be to undo the damage that they're doing to the Medicaid program. I don't see that as the long-term solution to fixing America's broken healthcare system, but this is like, the trauma surgery we have to do to America's healthcare system is refund Medicaid, because that is the backbone of children's healthcare in this country. Here in South Carolina is the largest insurer of children. It funds 50% of the births and 6 out of 10 nursing home beds. And as I mentioned before, I live in a state with 14 counties without an OBGYN. We never expanded Medicaid. We already have deep rural health inequities, and we cannot afford to gut Medicaid. That will just destroy access to healthcare for so many South Carolinians. I also want to pass a fully refundable, expanded and permanent child tax credit. And I want to do everything within my constitutional power to impeach and remove RFK Jr., because the damage that he has done to America's public health system in his short 1 year in that position of Secretary of HHS is going to take healthcare professionals decades to recover from. And I see that as an urgent issue that the next Congress is going to have to address immediately. And I look forward to leading that charge.
So you talked about RFK Jr. and Congresswoman Robin Kelly filed articles of impeachment recently, right after this shooting of Alex Priddy in Minneapolis. Or actually, she did it after Rachel Good was killed. And you're saying the same should happen with RFK. I wouldn't disagree with you in that regard, because he's harming the country. How are you, when you talk about that with some of your colleagues and the potential people that you're going to be working with, how are you going to navigate, that kind of legislation in the U.S. Senate?
I think, the way I look at it is we have so many urgent things. The majority of cabinet members have no business being in the positions that they are in. As a physician, I see it as my area of expertise where I can be a leading voice against RFK Jr., because I know so many of the words that come out of his mouth have no grounding in science or evidence-based medicine. And it is easy for me to push back against that in a way that it's not as easy for a lawyer, to do. And so I look forward to being an expert in pushing back against the disinformation, misinformation, conspiracy theories coming from the highest level of America's healthcare system. And, so many people are focused on so many different really important things that I think we need one voice in the U.S. Senate who can focus on impeaching and removing RFK Jr. And, when I talk about this to folks on the ground here in South Carolina, first of all, I'll tell you, I go to Black churches in South Carolina about 2 Sundays a month right now. And my biggest applause line, aside from when I say who I'm running against and the crowd erupts, is when I say that I want to do everything I can to impeach and remove RFK Jr. People see him for who he is, the fool that he is, the grifter and conspiracy theorist that he is. So I believe it's politically advantageous for me to talk about him on the trail. And I also think it's an urgent need if we want to do everything we can to restore trust in America's public health system.
Yeah, without a doubt. I have one or two more questions, and this is one that I think a lot of people are asking.
I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, okay. She's having a difficult time hearing. All right. I don't know if it's any better now. We can hear you, but you probably can't hear me. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, she can't hear me anymore. Okay. So here's what I wanted to put to you, if you can hear me, and that's the thought around change in leadership in the U.S. Senate. And right now, the minority leader is Chuck Schumer. What are your thoughts there in terms of if that needs to change, if you have an opinion or an observation toward that? No, she can't. All right. Well, let's do this, guys.
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. There we go. So the question that I asked you was, a lot of people are asking, what do we do when it comes to leadership in the House and the Senate? Minority leader, but you're going to be in the Senate, so we're talking about minority leader of the Senate. Do you feel that there needs to be change there? And currently, that leader is Chuck Schumer.
So I feel very strongly that we need generational change in the Democratic Party. And I think that we can see that's what the American voter wants when we watch what kind of candidates are rising to the surface this election cycle. It is clear to me on the ground and when I'm watching what's happening in other parts of this country that American voters are ready for a different kind of leader, someone who's not used to business as usual in Washington, D.C., someone who understands the urgency of this moment. I think particularly we need more people in my generation, people who are in the thick of parenthood, who come home every day to their own children and understand the urgency of these issues and understand we don't have time to play politics as usual. So I look forward to getting to the U.S. Senate in January 2027, and then I'll hear anyone out, and see who is really fit to lead in that moment, because I think we're going to need to have the most productive possible U.S. Congress in January 2027 after Democrats take back the House and take back the Senate. And we can't pull punches. We can't trust the Republicans to play by the rules. We're going to have to be bold and act with urgency on every issue that we're facing as Americans.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you guys give them no breathing room whatsoever. I said the other day, Dr. Andrews, go out and buy a sledgehammer, everybody. Put it by the door as a reminder that this is what we've got to do. We've got to go in and we got to break some things up a little bit, but what the goal is to put them back together in a better way. I'm going to get this information to you, but I'll let you know now as an on-air invitation. I'd love to see you, if you can make it, to the town hall and building bridges fireside chat that we're going to be doing up in Rocky Mount with some of the North Carolina folks that are running for state office, and fingers crossed that we are able to get former Governor Cooper to be there, Roy Cooper. But love to have you in attendance. It's going to be on Sunday, March 1st at the Word Tabernacle Church in Rocky Mount. I'll make sure we get you the information, but if it's something that you can attend, I'm always a big believer in how we connect each other and making sure that if one person's running over here, they know about somebody over here, and you know how it goes, and be able to make your name be a big part of that as well, so that people can say, oh yeah, we want to help her out with our dollars and with our access, even though we're not voting in that state. We are neighbor states, and how South and North Carolina goes, so goes the nation in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. One last before we go, how can folks find you, Dr. Andrews? How can they get involved in your campaign, no matter where they are in the United States, and be a supporter of your effort to win this seat?
They can go to drannieandrews.com, and there you can sign up to volunteer, because you can phone bank and text bank from anywhere in the country. You can also donate to the campaign. As I said, our average donation is $26. So every dollar helps me build the war chest I need to counteract Lindsey Graham's special interest funded war chest. You can also read about where I stand on many, many issues, and you can link to my social media platforms. One of the ways I'm running this campaign is by embracing new media. I'm incredibly active on all social media platforms, Annie Andrews MD on Instagram, and I want folks to follow along and interact with me there, because as you just said, this race impacts all of us. Lindsey Graham is bad news for all of us. And if we are able to unseat Lindsey Graham in South Carolina in November 2026, I cannot think of a more strong message to send to Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans.
I agree with you there 1,000%. Dr. Annie Andrews, y'all, running for U.S. Senate in the great state of South Carolina. Thanks for being with us this morning. We're here for you. We got to get you back on again and again, whatever it takes to help support you winning this U.S. Senate seat. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Andrews.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a great day today. Let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820, and, of course, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
Hey guys, this is Tara Devlin for the Political Voices Network. This is America, right? We don't do kings here. No crowns, no thrones, no authoritarian cosplay. That's why we created the No Kings American Flag pin. For the low price of $20.26, that's 2026, we're keeping our eye on the prize here. This well-crafted enamel pin is the standard 1-inch American flag lapel pin, but this one features the patriotic No Kings symbol that defines our rallying cry. It's your quiet way of signaling to other patriots that you believe in democracy, and yeah, that still matters. You can grab yours now at store.politicalvoicesnetwork.com. That's store.politicalvoicesnetwork.com. The No Kings American Flag pin. Get it now at store.politicalvoicesnetwork.com.
Eggland's Best, the only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today, a high around 40 degrees. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly cloudy. Temperatures fall early, then slowly rise overnight. By Tuesday, partial sunshine, a high around 44. And Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high around 38. Thursday, cloudy, high 37. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 21. Straight Talk Wireless presents Pickup Truck Wisdom.
The smartest way to spend your money is not to. Straight Talk offers free 5G phones for new and existing customers on Verizon's 5G network. So the refund money I don't spend on that free phone is the refund money I get to keep for my family. Smart.
Find us at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Straight Talk Wireless. Straightforward. Always. Taxes and fees apply. Plan purchase required for free phone offers. Copyright 2026 Verizon.
NBC News Radio, I'm Michael Kastner. Anti-ICE protesters held demonstrations outside Levi's Stadium during Super Bowl Sunday as the Seahawks battled and ultimately defeated the Patriots 29-13. Organizers staged an ICE-out protest with hundreds of people marching and calling on lawmakers not to give new funding to the Department of Homeland Security. Local police said no arrests were made. Over 900 Google workers have signed an open letter condemning actions by ICE and CBP, urging the tech giant to disclose its deals with the agencies and divest from them. Tammy Trujillo reports.
The letter, citing the recent ICE killings of Keith Porter, Renee Good, and Alex Preddy, said the employees are appalled by the violence and horrified by Google's part in it. The letter accuses Google of, quote, powering this campaign of surveillance, violence, and repression. It also claims Google Cloud is aiding CBP surveillance and powering Palantir's immigration OS system, which is used by ICE. The letter notes Google's generative AI is used by CBP and that the Google Play Store has blocked ICE tracking apps.
Today's show anchor Savannah Guthrie is making an emotional public appeal as the search for her missing mother, 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, enters its second week. More from Nick Harper.
Flanked by her brother and sister, Savannah Guthrie reads out a short message.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her, and we will pay.
The demand is reportedly for $6 million, paid in Bitcoin.
That demand, with a deadline of 5 p.m. today, was reportedly made in a note sent to Tucson television station KGUN. The family's plea follows news that the FBI and Arizona authorities are examining a new message received on Friday that may be connected to the case. A $50,000 reward is being offered for information leading to the safe return of Nancy Guthrie. Michael Kastner, NBC News Radio.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us this morning. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to State Line's criminal justice reporter Amanda Watford, Sasha Abramsky, freelance journalist and author whose latest book is American Carnage, How Trump, Musk, and Doge Butchered the U.S. Government, North Central College political professor Suzanne Chod. Live, Local, and Progressive weekdays 2 to 7, 2 to 5 here on WCPT, AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And then from 5 to 7 today, driving it home with Patty Vasquez, will be Patty's guest should be joined by Miguel Aranda, congressional candidate in Wisconsin's 1st District, and author Dan Friedman. That's Patty Vasquez weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, AM 820, and Heartland Signal. Tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow, Dr. Roger Mitchell, president of the National Medical Association, the nation's oldest and largest organization representing Black physicians and their patients. I spoke about her earlier. Anderson Clayton, chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, and Demi Palachuk, community activist and Illinois candidate for Illinois House in the 13th District, will be hanging out with us tomorrow. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Right now, we have our good friend Sarah Jones, who hangs out with us every other week here on the show. And as you guys know, if you follow Sarah on her social media, you'll learn something. So that's how I like to put it. The Daily, Politicus, Sarah Jones. She's amazing, and the work that she does is very important. And her commentary and observations are things that I think you guys really want to tap into. So happy Monday after Super Bowl, Sarah, and welcome to the show this morning.
So glad to be here, Richard. Thank you, and yeah, happy Bad Bunny, fabulous halftime show, and happy flop for Kid Rock and the losers, apparently. I didn't check it out, but I heard that it was got 4% of the Bad Bunny show, which actually, to me, and I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, but I have been seeing the money leaving Trump. And I think that's unfortunately because this country runs on money more than anything else. You know, that's our most important value in this country is money and the people who have it. And they have abandoned Trump. You know, they see that where the money is, where the money has left, the consumers have left. And so that is why, you know, he didn't want Bad Bunny for the halftime show, but the NFL, which is certainly not aligned with progressive values, and you know, they were like, no, this is what we're doing, and it was this show of like, I think he had the big sign in the back, the only thing more powerful than hate is love.
Yeah.
This is at a Super Bowl, and I think it's really important. I think that we are watching in real time this illusion of support, or the delusion of support. It is eroding and falling apart in front of our eyes, and we have to document this, and we have to say, yes, this is happening. Look at Melania, you know, and it looks like that movie was artificially, you know, inflated for the little that it got. I know they've been running around oh, we had a great opening for a non-musical whatever. But, then one of the box office experts was saying it looks like there's bulk buying that happened in advance, and some of those people don't even look like they even showed up. So they bought tickets, and then they obviously made a Rotten Tomatoes review so that it's got like 9% from actual film experts, film reviewers, and then the audience score was like 99%.
Right.
It's like everything that Trump does, but I think that when we're in this age of gaslighting, it's so important to see these real. You cannot create mass support in these ways, right?
Yeah.
So the viewership, like you can have bots, and I'm sure they had bots watch their sad halftime alternative reality version, but it just is you don't have enough of that, and this does matter for the midterms. And so the other thing that I think that I'm seeing is I just got this report this morning that K Street, which is basically the lobbying hub of DC and our nation, has aligned with Democrats. Basically, most K Street leaders, I think it's a 90%, said Democrats are in a stronger position than the Republicans ahead of 2026 midterms. So that means who are they going to be lobbying? Who do they see as the influence in this country? And it isn't Donald Trump and his party.
Yeah, that leads to so many things that just went through my brain, like what it was like for you when you were, every day dealing with and in the throes of, being a White House political analyst and all that there, and to have that information come out. I think more people. This is the stuff that people don't get to see. Is what I'm trying to say. That report isn't going to make the corporate media, the corporate news, but it should. Because it's integral to people understanding that the shift has taken place. It might not be moving at a way that people see necessarily. And to me, that's one of the failings of corporate media right now. Is to your point, they're not talking about the things that are actually happening on the ground where people are moving away from, because they've got to work so hard to still prop this dude up. But when we talk about politicians not getting the message from voters or from citizens, I don't think that corporate media has gotten the message from the everyday citizen, the everyday consumer.
I think that you're speaking about something that I remain profoundly disappointed, and I almost feel betrayed by the people I shouldn't say the people, the corporations that run journalism right now. I think that there are the individual journalists, for the most part, do really good work. And they, if you're getting into this, and I'm not talking about being a pundit or being, a big name like that, but if you're getting into journalism, you care on some level. You care about reporting what's going on to people, and I would hope on some level. I got into this because this is what matters to me. I care about the people in this country. That's the most important thing to me. But one of the things, we just saw Will Lewis step down, right, at Washington Post, and I've been writing about him. I was writing about the royal family and the royal rota and the tabloids propping up the royal family and the Tories. I've been writing about that for years because to me, it really mirrored what was going on here. And then we see all these previous tabloid people, Maggie Haberman, right, being moved up into the places where they are covering the White House. And to me, it was a trend that they were copying. And then they brought Will Lewis over, who the police were saying, had we known what we know today, right after they, employed him at the Washington Post, they brought him over, right? He is a British tabloid. He ran tabloids there, and he was wanted. They wanted to question him about the criminal cover-up of millions of emails, or tens of thousands of emails. Now, it's been a while since I wrote about this, so don't quote me on that part. But there was this cover-up the phone hacking scandal,
I
right?
remember.
And he was involved in, or allegedly involved in the cover-up of that, and they wanted to talk to him about it, but they only discovered that conveniently when it was too late to bring it up to him. And who does, out of all the journalists who were unemployed in this country at that time, who did Jeff Bezos want to bring on to run this esteemed paper? And then they said they weren't going to endorse a candidate in 2024. They just couldn't figure out if anyone was better, right? So these, and then we saw similar things happening at the New York Times. These, and at CNN, I mean, you could just go down, and CBS, we can't even talk about CBS.
You forget somebody because there's so many, but go ahead. I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, that's it. There's so many. And this, I think, to your, like, the fact that you brought this up is just, this has been boiling up in me. And I'm devastated by, I knew these people were a disappointment from the outset. I remember, because I do feel like I've been doing this. I'm getting burned out. Like it's getting so old to watch these people. They are getting worse. They didn't get better. I started doing this right after President Obama, his first term, right after he won. And I just watched how they reported on him. One of the things that sticks in my mind, and they're still doing it to this day, is they literally accuse him of being divisive because racists had a problem with him. It wasn't his action. He did nothing to be divisive. The way he led this country, you couldn't have asked for a more temperate, moderate, highly his character is unimpeachable. I mean, guess who wasn't in the Epstein files? Joe Biden and Barack Obama, And they were everything that these people, that the Republicans claim they are.
Yeah.
And yet the media, and another thing is, someone brought this up to me the other day, and I thought, this is such a good point, so I'm so glad you brought this up so I can address this. They said sometimes, like, the Washington Post or the New York Times will do this, good thing, that's good research, that seems like anti-Trump. And I said, yes, they do. Well, number one, because that is exactly what they wanted. See, before, when Donald Trump wasn't in office, when Joe Biden was in office, there weren't all of these corruption scandals to uncover. And I remember when I was covering Joe Biden's administration, and they cut out the New York Times from these special calls. They would do these special policy calls where a few of us were able to ask questions and get really deep into the weeds with them. They cut the New York Times out of that because of their unfair coverage of the president and his administration.
Yeah. It's
well,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, just to get to the point, the reason they it looks like they're doing something now, but the whole reason they wanted Donald Trump in office is not only because he's a clown that gets a lot of clicks because there's a constant circus to cover, but also because those of us who actually care about policy, and we're just doing like here, let's inform people. Here's this, Joe Biden's doing this great thing where you can unsubscribe with one click, that impacts everyone, right? But no one cared, but I thought it was important. Well, one thing we can't do, those little independent journalists, we don't have law firms, the biggest law firms in the world, that will protect us like they protect the New York Times when they are brought up, in a law case, in a court of law, for maybe doing something less responsibly than they should have. We don't have that. So we can't do the investigation into Donald Trump the same way that they can. That is the one thing that they get to do with that privilege, with all that money. And so this is one thing they wanted out of him, because that gets them clicks. That makes them important again. They weren't important under Joe Biden because they weren't reporting on things that mattered to the people. They want to talk about what's happening on Wall Street all the time. They don't want to talk about, and I'm not saying Wall Street doesn't matter, but what about the streets of America? What about, what people are getting paid? What about their healthcare costs? What about their groceries? All of those things are not interesting to a corporate media. I've gotten that.
No, I mean the fact that they're and thank you for that, Sarah. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with Sarah Jones this morning. Sarah, the importance of you kind of diving into that and taking the different angles of how and what the corporate media, which I'm calling it now, is doing and not doing. The reason that that's important is that every day, most every person turns to some form of corporate media for a certain, at least starting point of their information, and then they will go to maybe the alternative media or the independent media and the rest. And when the corporate media has for such a long time been the champion that many of us have leaned to, keeps doing this thing over and over again, and that thing is just reporting on what's going to drive their clicks or drive raise that part of who they are as an entity, it gets a little tiring. It does create some potential for burnout, because you're like, why would I continue to go there when they keep reporting the same way? And the New York Times, great paper, great institution. And I would say the same thing about the Journal and the Post, but they've just become too willing to bend the knee repeatedly on Donald Trump and the entire GOP, which is why I said that this report that you're talking about is so critically important, because a lot of people are sort of sitting there going, well, is the GOP really that bad right now? Well, are his numbers really going down? Yeah, they are. Reported every day, just like you reported. I mean, they couldn't get enough of Hunter Biden. Report on what really matters to the country, and that the dude in the White House is throwing the country to the wolves. But, the frustration for me, you can hear it in my voice, is that we know that they aren't going to really do that. And if we win back the House and the Senate, and we win the White House in 2028, they aren't going to really change. So it's important that we have the Sarah Joneses of the world and all the other independent medias, the Don Lemons of the world. What?
Richard, oh my God. I'm so glad you said that. I wish that people, this is what really drives me insane. It's the people, all the people in the independents and the people on the left who they love nothing more than a Republican that they can agree with, right? And we see this in the Democratic leadership too, and even Joe Biden, right? Merrick Garland is AG. Guys, this is not working. These people are not going to change. They have not changed, and you know what? They have no reason to change
unless we push them.
Right. They keep managing to do all this stuff to make it okay. Remember the post-mortem they were going to do after they lost? I mean, it was like 15 years ago. Oh, we're going to stop doing this racist stuff. This has been really bad for our brand.
Yeah.
We got to stop this. Well, that never happened. They doubled down. That's why we have Donald Trump now. That's why we got him in 2016. He was the white lash to Barack Obama. He is, and I think, let's talk about that foil, because I think that is the fundamental issue going on underneath all of this stuff, is that Barack Obama was such a sterling example of a president, and constitutional scholars agree. And then the so-called white, what he thinks he's like exceptional because he has white skin, he's always been a racist. He was out there doing the birther stuff, he and his wife Melania, against Barack Obama, and that poisoned and reignited, not that it was ever gone, but it really did make it okay, make it great again to be a racist and to be full of hate and to blame other people for your own failings, basically. And that's what I see Donald Trump really stands for. And this is a man, he's all over the Epstein files. He is all over the Epstein files. He and all of these tech bros. And that doesn't mean that the tech bros or he did anything wrong. Just to be in the files is not, proof of wrongdoing. But there's a lot more mention of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And
Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, he's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, what's crazy about this. So Sarah, is that I've said this for the last few weeks. Being in the Epstein files is not an indictment of bad behavior. It is, for whatever reason you're in the Epstein files, you're there. I'm more concerned about the criminal and craven and disgusting behavior being identified by who committed it and then rooting them out and putting them to task. Somebody's name being in the Epstein's files is like, that phrase that we've been using is almost not damaging, but it does take the teeth out of what we're really trying to get after is, with releasing, if they're in the Epstein files, and I've heard, frankly, some folks on the left say, we don't care who's in the Epstein files. If they're in the Epstein files, they all should be punished. No, that's kind of a stupid way of approaching it. We want, if we're going to dig into this, we want to bring out the harmful, the corrupt, the illegal behavior of people who are in the Epstein files, because that's what really matters. That's what's going to stick, not just somebody being in there, because that then becomes yet another distraction, which it has become once again. I'm not buying into the, okay, so-and-so's in the Epstein files. Okay, well, what are they in there for? I said this before, there's a lot of people that were in Hoover's files, but that's because they were being surveilled. Doesn't mean that they were doing something that was bad. So the association part is bad, that they would have been, on the island or whatever else. But I want to see evidence that shows people were doing criminal and horrible things. But
what goes to your area of expertise that I have been seeing in this Epstein files, it's all the money. And I think that's one thing that they will not give access to. There's a Democrat who's been trying to get access to that for many years from the Treasury to follow the money. And not only the sex trafficking is obviously disgusting, and then just to now see the White House or the FBI saying like there actually isn't a sex trafficking ring. I just can't with the gaslighting. But what I think is interesting about that is the story underneath all of this, because we see with all the emails with the tech bros that they have invested, tens of millions of dollars linked to Peter Thiel alone, and millions of dollars. Elon Musk was all involved in all these. Bill Gates. Why are they all? These are the guys who were all suddenly behind Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I think, and they are the people who've gotten so wealthy. And I think that one of the problems, and one of the things we're going to see, and I heard a British journalist mention this yesterday or the day before, is all of actually it was about Prince Andrew, but I think this is the story that's going to unravel is money laundering and international rings of money that these people are protecting.
Yeah.
So I'm just, that's what I think. I think the corruption is it's so much worse than we think it is. And so don't get distracted. Like, to your point, yes. I think I wrote an article, the fire hose of falsehoods, because they put so much in there.
Yep.
That was a deliberate, tactic to confuse everybody. And that did make people say, well, if your name's in there, then you're a criminal. And that isn't true. We have to sit here and parse out, even though it's certainly, people lose the energy to do all this, and nobody wants to sit here and focus on this disgusting, but this is the underbelly that's been driving the corporate media too. Like, this stuff that we're seeing is about the corruption of this elite class, and that is what the whole story is about.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Sarah, man, oh man, oh man, every other week's just not enough.
We got to do this more, and to our other thing that we're getting off the ground.
Yeah.
There's so much to say.
There's so much to say. Sarah Jones, thank you again for being with us. Thanks for getting it out, letting people know that we've got to hold these folks to a certain level of responsibility, and you do it so well with the articles that you write. Follow her. She is just amazing, and what she writes is so inspiring and eye-opening. Sarah Jones, Politicus USA, The Daily with Sarah Jones. Thanks for hanging out with us this Monday after the Super Bowl.
Thanks so much, Richard. It's always a pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Have a great rest of the week.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys, let's grab a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Hi, I'm LaShawn K. Ford, and I'm running for Congress because I see what's happening in our communities every day. I see young people struggling to find opportunity. I see seniors working harder just to make ends meet, and I see families feeling squeezed by rising costs while Washington stays distracted. This Trump administration has brought chaos and corruption instead of real solutions. We need leadership that listens and delivers. As a state legislator, I've spent years fighting for working families, seniors, and communities that too often get left behind. That record is why I'm endorsed by Congressman Danny K. Davis, former U.S. Senator Roland Burst, former Congressman Bobby Rush, former Secretary of State Jesse White, and the Speaker of the Illinois House, Chris Welch. Make your plan to vote, and on your ballot, punch 31. Paid for by LaShawn K. Ford for Congress.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today, a high around 40 degrees. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly cloudy. Temperatures fall early, then slowly rise overnight. By Tuesday, partial sunshine, a high around 44. And Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high around 38. Thursday, cloudy, high 37. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 22.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
He's not here to yell. He's here to inform and maybe stir the pot. This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us this morning. It's always great to hang out, and we've had just a wonderful honor to have Dr. Annie Andrews on with us earlier in the show, and our good friend Sarah Jones from PoliticusUSA with us. And, you know, I brag a little bit about one thing, and that is that we have these really smart people that are subject matter experts. We had Dr. Annie Andrews on, wonderful pediatrician down in South Carolina, running for the U.S. Senate seat against Lindsey Graham. And right now, as we wrap up the show today, we have Dr. Robert Pape, who is political science, just professor of, I don't even know how to say it other than just a professor that gets it right when it comes to talking about political science, talking about national security affairs. And it's good to have him back with us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Pape. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me on again.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you on again. And I got a big smile on my face because I think about just the impact of the work that you've done. I mean, from your books and all of that. But just, you know, right out of the gate, I'll dive in the deep end of the pool. and ask you kind of this broad question, but specific question. One of the things and let me make this statement first, and then I'll ask a question. One of the things that the professor speaks a lot about and writes a lot about is violence in America, political violence in America, and throughout the rest of the world. And it's the area of the many things that he talks about, from terrorism to national security affairs and all the rest. So one thing for me that is probably more personal, because we are living in an extraordinarily amped up violent society, violent America, whether it be violence that's committed when we talk about school shootings, or whether it be the violence that comes with these ICE incidents. But, Professor Pape, give us a little bit of your sort of broad observation of why you think violence has increased like it has in the United States of America. And let's use the last 20 years as a kind of a window to look in.
I think that's a great way to think about it, Richard, because we tend to focus on the day. And in any given day, it's terrifying. And then when we don't have the violence right in front of us, we have so much relief, we want to forget about it, you see? So your question to try to broaden this out is so helpful and so important. And that's exactly what I do. I've studied political violence for 30 years. I have a center at the University of Chicago. This is something that I'm not just casually reacting to events. It's really important to understand that violence today isn't just happening around us, it's becoming the new normal. We're adjusting to the violence. And how do we know that? Well, we know that because when we watch what happened with Operation Midway Blitz here in Chicago, and then we watch what happened in Minneapolis, notice the population is literally changing their daily lives. We're not just having podcasts about this. We're not just talking about this across the kitchen table. We're literally, and our kids aren't going to school. We're not going to the store. You see, this is how I have studied, again, political violence for 30 years in books. Yes, I've taught for the U.S. Air Force. I've also advised White Houses. So this is something that I've done in a lot of different ways. And one of the ways you know that it's serious or the new normal is people are adjusting their daily lives. And that is really, really a new level. You see what I mean, Richard?
Absolutely.
So it's not just another conversation here. We need to really put this in a little different context, which is this wasn't always that way. Now, we have had school shootings. We've had unbelievably, we've had mass murders here. I'm not trying to tell you that really violence is new, and there are vulnerable communities, and of course the Black community for sure that has faced this for many, many, many decades. But that said, this is now becoming a normal, if you see what I mean. And that's really the conversation we have to have, because that's the real change. Now, there are some sort of deeper reasons for this. There's also some folks that we can call out. And what you've seen with President Donald Trump is he has wanted to normalize violence. For him, it's just another day. And that, whether it's Venezuela or Minneapolis, doesn't really seem to matter to him. You see what I mean? Whether his agents have shot and killed so-called narco terrorists, who we have no idea whether they were, or American citizens. Again, this is this idea. But I want to call attention to the bigger thing that we aren't really talking enough about. And then there's another observation, Richard. I want to not just leave it here, because I don't want to leave it where there's nothing to do. But this is really the big, big thing that's hard to talk about, because, of course, when it bleeds, it leads. Right? And yeah. I know, because I'm on all these podcasts and news and everything. I know. But we're talking today where it's a day I woke up and I checked the news, and you know what? It's a day where we didn't have bleeds, it leads. But this is a day where it's actually even more important to see this new normal where we're literally adjusting to it in our daily lives. That's not something that is good for America.
No, and I wrote down the word normalize, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. But that depiction, that description of how we're changing our human algorithm to reset ourselves to say a couple of things. Well, it happened over there, not here. And that's something that I can say you certainly understand this, and I do as well. The Black community in America has been saying for a long time, listen, this is a problem. And many people have said, well, it's over there. Now we've got this same thing, just different location, but Minneapolis, well, it's over there. And we're becoming used to putting it that it's someplace else. It's not here. But the normalization is part of the problem and the belly of it, because a lot of people are just off to their regular events and their day activities and all that. And they're resetting themselves to go, well, that's kind of where we are. And that's kind of, and that to me it's not worse than the violence, but it has the potential of being worse because it allows us to be desensitized to when something awful happens. And that's
Can I give you a little microcosm of this, Richard, to maybe it'd be helpful, and you'll see a little bit how this goes to the future, and then maybe we can talk about something more positive. Literally about just the month after President Trump came into office, at the University of Chicago, we have a lot of international scholars and students. And I'm having lunch with somebody here, and he's telling me, for the first time in his 10 years of coming to America, he's now carrying his papers, and he pulls out his papers to prove that he is a legitimate person. Now, he wasn't an American citizen, but nonetheless, he was legitimate. And then what you see is that is a minor adjustment in his life. You say, well, what's the big deal there? Okay, he's got to carry his passport or so forth. Well, then you saw just 6 months later, now we have all these people who are living in America having to do that. And what is now we're talking about with the election coming up? We're talking about IDs now that we've got to carry with us. This isn't just for people who are immigrants or people who are not American citizens. Notice the creeping way these adjustments are happening, and they're happening slowly, okay? And you say, well, no, that's not so bad, and it's not just about me, or it's happening to that person over there. But I'm just pointing to point out, this is going to come to the midterms, and it's coming to us fast, and it's coming in a serious way, and we can see it. But the reason it's hard is because it is normal. It's like the frog in the boiling water. It is turning up the heat little by little, and that frog is us.
As we get closer, I've been saying this for a few weeks now, Professor Pape, that as we get closer to the midterms, I believe that the heat, and that the analogy is so profound right now that you just leaned into, is going to get hotter. And we've already been at a slow boil for months now since Trump last January. I always try to change my words up to what it is, but since Trump is now president again, the slow boil has happened, and it's gotten a little bit more, and I think it's going to be that way as we get closer to this midterm. Because I believe something that one of our previous guests, two of our previous guests, Sarah Jones, who was on before, and Dr. Annie Andrews, who said their versions of the same thing, that the society knows. This is where I believe in humankind. Our society knows that what's happening in this country and the world at large, but certainly this country, is wrong. I believe in my heart that. But I think a lot of people have gotten it's become normal for so many people that they haven't found what it takes to fight back against it. Call me crazy. Maybe you've got some strings to add to that. But I believe that people know in their hearts that where we are is wrong. It's bad. So now the question is to kind of go in the direction that I know that you like to go, is what can we do really that's tangible? Everyday folks to fix.
There really is something, Richard, we can do. And I also just want to let your viewers know, about a week and a half ago, I was very honored. We have the Illinois Accountability Commission. There are hearings, and I was really honored on January 30th to be the lead witness for the hearings at the Illinois Accountability Commission, where I had a chance to really talk about Operation Midway Blitz, what I'm about to say now, and put it in a little different context. People keep thinking, what can I do? But they're missing that something is also happening. This is not just happening to one of us. It's not just happening to Democrats, although Democrats are right now talking the loudest about it. Notice that especially after Minneapolis, but even during Operation Midway Blitz, we were starting to hear Republicans getting concerned too. Now, with the shootings of Preety and Good, that Republican set of voices got much, much louder. In fact, the Republican candidate who was running for governor stepped down,
right,
and said he would not be part of a party who would do this in a video. Now, you say, well, why would Democrats care about this? The reason is because there is an opportunity now that's growing but rare, but we have to seize it. It's not just going to happen, of an actual bipartisan pushback here. And that's important as we get into the election season. And I'm going to talk about a specific thing that is not just a general thing, but let me just explain the general. This is something that's really hard to do this in a bipartisan way. And you say, well, why would that be so hard? It's the fear, Richard. When people are afraid, they get in their silo. It's not just we live in silos in social media. Yes, that's been true for a long, long time. What's happening now is a little bit different with fear. And I study societies under fear. People tend to become, their world's narrow. They're worried only about this little bubble. And then who immediately is going to defend me? And that's what the Democratic leaders are here. They're here. The people want to be defended. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But there's something broader to hear beyond the emotion, which is to notice that's actually happening to a fair hunk of Republicans right now as well. If you listen to the Daily this morning, the New York Times podcast, they're actually interviewing Republicans here about this morning to really show that this is happening. Well, that's unusual because you can actually build, if you really want to push back against the president who's got veto power, okay, and he's got enormous power, how are you going to do that for real? How is that actually going to happen? So, yep, you can sort of try to have the one side, which is the Democratic side, which is actually the minority in power. Okay, you can go another way, which is you can broaden that coalition. You broaden that coalition, and that starts to have some real teeth to it. Do you see what I mean, Richard?
Absolutely.
This is where it's hard because it's really, these are parties that don't want to work together. But I just want to point out that our surveys show there's an enormous amount, 60+% of Republicans, not just Democrats, agree that immigration should only focus on the worst of the worst, those violent criminals. There's really very few people in the country who want to protect those violent immigrants, and they don't really care whether they're immigrants or not.
Listen,
they just
right?
raped and all that.
I don't want to protect a violent person that's been here. That's 3 generations here in the United States. And I'm just telling you, Richard, it's in the data. But what's hard is it's so easy because also in our data is that Democrats are terrified of Republicans right now. They're just terrified, and they don't really want to say, well, that's the good Republican, that's the bad Republican. They're just scared. You see what I'm saying? And so, but this is where there's an opportunity. But this is where the leaders need to try to step up because they really could move in this space. And there's a specific proposal. I've been kind of, teasing. Let me just put it on the table. I think I briefly mentioned it before, but it's becoming increasingly urgent, which is we've got to have a proposal. And it's got to ideally not just coming out of Brandon Johnson and not just coming out of Governor Pritzker, but something you could get with, say, Governor DeWine in Ohio, to have a moratorium on militarized federal agents in our cities during the months, I don't mean the day, the months around the election. Yep.
That election is coming faster than it looks. And this idea, you might say, well, okay, that's a pretty good idea. Well, yeah, but it's going to take time, Richard, to pull this off. So, you can have somebody give a a professor tell you there's a great idea here. Okay. Well, how are you going to bring this into being? The way you bring it into being is you've got to explain to really not just the public, but the leaders, there's an opportunity here. The public would be on board. I think you might really well get Republicans to get on board with this, because what are they going to want to do? Are they really going to want to set a precedent where after 2028, if there's a Democratic president, that Democratic president's going to be able to send troops in to churches, because we're going to protect the churches, and we're going to, is that really going to be what's going to be okay now? We're sending troops into neighborhoods, but we got to protect the elections. It's not just we got to start somewhere that's the jewel in America's crown. And that's why I think this is a big opportunity, a moratorium. You can make it September 1, October 1 through January 7. That is when the Congress sits. So that's not just when you vote. It's not just when you count the vote. It's when you certify and you have a moratorium, no militarized agents. And why do we got to do this? Hasn't Donald Trump learned his lesson? Well, just listen to him. He's talking about how on not just once, but multiple times in the last week, we've got to nationalize our elections. Yeah. We got to have federal agents, he says, counting the ballots in the liberal cities. If your listeners will go, he's literally talking about this. And people are saying, well, that's unconstitutional.
Doesn't matter.
There's a lot of things. I just got to tell you, Richard, this is the normalization problem. That's another great example. It's when, and we're all susceptible to it, is that we go, well, the Constitution will protect us, or this will, that sort of, it's a weird sleepwalk into not doing anything because you think, well, we've got these things in place. And I will call myself out sometimes. I've said, we have the courts, we have this, we have that they're designed to help and protect, but they won't function if we don't take action and push. They're also reactive, Richard.
Right, rather than preventative.
They're not moving ahead. They're not preventing. They react, and they're often 3-4 months late.
Yeah,
so if you look at the Accountability Commission, I just told you what an honor it was to be on the Illinois Accountability Commission. One of their key purposes is to file lawsuits against the federal government for the deaths and shootings that have happened in the city of Chicago. So they're collecting evidence from the community. That's one of the things they're looking to do. Well, notice this is they're talking about events that happened 6 months ago. So, yeah, there are courts. I'm not telling you, I'm glad we have courts, okay? But I'm saying we've got to not just sit back and react and say, yeah, the courts have done some good. We got a few good judgments here. That's all well and good, but they're 3-4 months late. And for our election, that's too late.
Way too late. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Professor Robert Pape from the University of Chicago, expert in American political violence, terrorism, international affairs, and policy. As we wrap up this morning, Professor, I want to ask you this question, going back to something that you sort of said and kind of introduced about what folks can do. I think that every person that I talk to or that calls into the show or that responds to me in one way or another, I can feel there's a need to do something and to be involved and to know that they're not just, on the sidelines. Because I know that they may not want to be, but unfortunately they may have been normalized into a little bit of that. How do we help folk who want to be involved, who want to seriously do something right now?
Well, the most important thing to realize is our leaders respond to our emails. They respond to the phone calls when we leave those messages. They have staff who listen here. They really do care. And this idea that I'm talking about, this moratorium around the fall election, if the listeners, and it really doesn't take all that many, if the listeners would start to call Raja Krishnamurthy, he's going to be paying attention here, emailing his office, going to your show and emailing back your show saying, hey, I heard that professor on your show, Richard. You know, we ought to talk more about this. Why don't you bring on a panel? Maybe we don't even need the professor now. He's planted the seed, but why don't you bring on a panel and actually, let's see, what about Brandon Johnson? What about a panel that would actually talk about this? If your listeners would send a few emails here, it has an enormous oomph. I spend quite a bit of my time. I've advised every White House since 9/11, not this one yet, but even the first Trump White House.
Yeah.
Many senators, many people, many congressmen and women. And I'm just telling you, they are really hypersensitive to what comes in their email from people. And it doesn't even have to be their own constituents, by the way, because they know that's a tip of an iceberg. For someone to actually make that effort here is not just what they do on TikTok. It's not just what they're doing on X. They're making that extra effort, and that has enormous dividends because they are listening and they're saying, oh, if I've got 10 of these emails, there are actually 200 or 500 people who think that, maybe more, because they know that effort of the email is worth its weight in a lot more attitudes. That's what they can do, and it would really, really matter. So the idea, again, it's a moratorium of militarized federal agents in our cities around the election. You don't have to worry about the exact dates. It's to talk about that idea and get it moving, because right now there's another side talking about another idea, and that's to put those federal agents in. That's what's happening. So we've got to be the opposite of the frog, not just sit there and let somebody turn up that heat. We're going to start turning down that heat a little bit, Richard. And we have a tool to do that. And it's right at our disposal. It does take a little bit of effort, but if we talk it through, the momentum for the idea can build, and then before you know it, it's a lot more pushback with his, well, what do you mean, President Trump, you're going to do this when all these other people are talking about, because you're doing this, a moratorium. Are you really going to sacrifice the sanctity of our elections to your whim?
Yeah.
Again, Republicans, this isn't just a Democratic whining. We need to see there is a growing potential coalition here, and this is where the real power would come from.
Professor, how can people and if so, how can people get access to the Accountability Commission report? Is it a doc? Because I remember when
it's online right now. So they're doing multiple reports. So what's happening, Richard, is it's a rolling process here. Okay. So they're having multiple hearings. The hearings about every 2 weeks. They're on Fridays here. And there's a link here. They're online. So you can go to the commission. You can see the link. And what's going to happen, they already have one report. They'll be having more reports. So this is going to be rolling, Richard. Okay. And it's important because they're inviting the community in. It's not just experts like me who are coming in to give the testimony. They literally, this is 4 hours, a long time. And they brought in people from the community, healthcare providers, actual community people, right, to come and talk to the commission. And this was really pretty helpful because then the people also in the room talk to each other.
Got it. Dr. Robert Pape, who I could talk to you forever about this stuff, man. I so appreciate you hanging out with us this morning. Look forward to having you back again and talking in more depth. But thanks for being with us today. We appreciate your hard work and keeping us up to snuff when it comes to.
And I so appreciate everything you bring, Richard. You really bring it. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week. Stay safe, and thumbs up on better weather this week. We got to enjoy it here in Chicago. Thanks, Dr. Pape, for being with us. Okay. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Thanks for being with us this morning. What can I tell you? We got to wrap the show. Devin's giving me the signal. We will see you tomorrow.
Who is Kevin Ryan? Hey, that's me. I'm a Chicago public school teacher, union member, and Marine Corps veteran. Most importantly, I am a New Deal Democrat from a new generation, and I am running for the United States Senate to make our government work for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, you might not have heard of me because, well, I am just like you. I don't have millions of dollars to spend on TV ads, I'm not backed by a billionaire, and I've been excluded from the debates because I refuse to raise millions of dollars from the 1%. Instead, I am backed by ordinary people like you. I'm the only candidate to campaign in all 102 counties in my campaign school bus, and we fund our campaign by simply passing a hat around. So we thought we'd spend some of that money to introduce our campaign to you on WCPT radio. If you want to send a real progressive to the United States Senate and not another bought and paid for Democrat, go to kevinryan.com. Spread the word and vote for the candidate endorsed by Illinois progressives. My name is Kevin Ryan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I approve this message. Paid for by people of Illinois and Kevin Ryan.
Hey Chicago, Joe Fontana here, founder of Fry the Coop. At Fry the Coop, we serve the best chicken sandwiches in the world. And no, that's not an opinion, that's a fact my taste buds personally signed off on. At Fry the Coop, we hand bread every single piece of chicken, double fry it in 100% beef tallow, and we hit it with our secret Fry the Coop spice rub like it owes us money. The result? A Fry the Coop sandwich so crunchy, juicy, spicy, sweet, salty, and savory, it feels illegal. Fry the Coop has a one-of-a-kind sandwich that makes your taste buds high-five each other. Don't like it? No problem. We guarantee happiness or your money back. But don't worry, you're not going to need it. We now have 10 Fry the Coop locations around the Chicagoland area. So no matter where you're at, there's a good chance there's a Fry the Coop 15 minutes away. And we're a local Chicago company, born and bred, for the people, by the people. So come down and support your local boys and get the best chicken sandwich in the world. Right here in Chicago, right here at Fry the Coop.
File your taxes for free with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. Just file on your own in the Credit Karma app by February 28th. Valid for those who didn't file with TurboTax last year.
AP News, I'm Haya Panjwani. Today's your host, Savannah Guthrie, in a social media video, said her family is prepared to pay for her mother's safe return. Investigators believe Nancy Guthrie was taken against her will over a week ago. Speaking to reporters, Tucson resident Chuchi Ruiz, who stopped by Nancy Guthrie's house to bring flowers and offer support, says news of her disappearance has shaken the community.
It's very shocking. It is very shocking. And our Tucson is a beautiful, nice, calm city, and for something like this to happen, it's kind of shakes us at the root of our family, of our Tucson here. It's horrible, horrific.
AP photojournalist Jacqueline Martin, who's in Cortina, Italy for the Winter Olympics and was working with an Italian photographer covering Lindsey Vohn's race on Sunday, reports it was shocking to witness her crash.
The big story this year is really Lindsey Vohn's kind of comeback kid story about she just had the injury of her ACL, and then people are really excited to see her race and what's going to happen. I was taken to the spot by an Italian photographer working with us. It's known as the Trivati Corner for his family. Lindsey Vonn comes through. She's coming into the turn, and as she approaches the gate, she clips the gate with her arm or her shoulder. And as soon as she does that, we know, the photographer and I, that this is bad. She clips it, it totally throws her off, and she's unable to recover. A couple pictures later, you see her body at almost a full diagonal. It's bad, and she's not able to come back from that being put off balance when the impact from the gate happened. And at that moment, I just realized she's not going to be able to come back from this, and it is a bad crash.
Officials in Ukraine say Russian attacks in several areas killed at least 3 people and injured more than a dozen. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the U.S. gave Ukraine and Russia a June deadline to reach a peace deal. This is AP News. The Seahawks soared to victory over the Patriots in a Super Bowl rematch 11 years in the making.
The Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl 60 champions after beating the New England Patriots 29-13. Seattle quarterback Sam Darnold helped secure his first title with his only touchdown, a 16-yard pass to A.J. Barner early in the fourth quarter.
But it's special. And again, like I always say, it's this group is why it's special.
Jason Myers kicked a Super Bowl record 5 field goals. Kenneth Walker rushed for 135 yards. Seattle's defense recorded 6 sacks. Uchenna Nwosu had a late 45-yard pick 6 against Patriots QB Drake May, who passed for 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
I think it was just such a cool environment of playing this game, and
you understand why people try to get to this game, and you understand why.
Seattle claimed its second Lombardi Trophy. New England was denied an NFL record 7th Super Bowl win. Gethin Coolbaugh, Santa Clara, California.
I'm Haya Panjwani.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Partial sunshine develops here for today, a high around 40 degrees. Winds out of the south around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly cloudy. Temperatures fall early, then slowly rise overnight. By Tuesday, partial sunshine, a high around 44. And Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high around 38. Thursday, cloudy, high 37. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 21.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
You know, winter in Chicago hits hard. Is your home ready to stay warm and energy efficient? At Green Attic, they help you fight back against the cold. They're Chicagoland's trusted experts in attic insulation, spray foam, crawl space encapsulation, and mold remediation, solutions that lock in warmth and cut your heating bills. If your upstairs feels freezing or your furnace never stops running, your attic might be the culprit. Their team seals in comfort and stops energy waste at the source. Need roofing? Their sister company, Green Attic Roofing, offers asphalt, flat, premium roofs, and even Tesla solar roofs, all backed by a 10-year labor warranty and instant online quotes. Winter storms don't wait. Replace that aging roof now and protect your investment. With over 15 years of experience and more than 1,000 five-star reviews, Green Attic delivers real comfort, real savings, season after season. Visit greenattic.com for a free insulation consultation or go to greenatticroofing.com for your instant roofing estimate. Green Attic, healthy home, happy family.
Hi, I'm LaShawn K. Ford, and I'm running for Congress because I see what's happening in our communities every day. I see young people struggling to find opportunity. I see seniors working harder just to make ends meet, and I see families feeling squeezed by rising costs while Washington stays distracted. This Trump administration has brought chaos and corruption instead of real solutions. We need leadership that listens and delivers. As a state legislator, I've spent years fighting for working families, seniors, and communities that too often get left behind. That record is why I'm endorsed by Congressman Danny K. Davis, former U.S. Senator Roland Burst, former Congressman Bobby Rush, former Secretary of State Jesse White, and the Speaker of the Illinois House, Chris Welch. Make your plan to vote, and on your ballot, punch 31. Paid for by LaShawn K. Ford for Congress.
Chicago.